Introduction. The chase and the Lupine necklace. The night air was thick with anticipation, and every heartbeat echoed like a drum in the darkened forest. I growled playfully, the sound vibrating deep within my chest, as Ian, my devoted and fierce boyfriend, stepped closer, his eyes glinting with a wild, predatory intensity. In that moment, the woods became our playground, and the thrill of the chase was our only companion. We were not merely running. We were fleeing from memories that haunted us and secrets that could shatter our fragile world. Our escape was a desperate dance with danger, an intricate ballet that began when I was once kidnapped, a dark event that forever altered the course of my life. I still remember the chaos of that day, the relentless pursuit, the haunting silhouettes of strangers, and the terror that clung to me like a second skin. But it was also the day my destiny became intertwined with the mysterious power of the Lupine necklace, a sacred talisman my father guarded with his life. This necklace was not merely an ornament, it was a source of untamed power, granting the bearer command over real wolves. In the wrong hands, such power could ignite chaos, empowering a werewolf pack beyond all natural bounds. And that was why my father had sworn to keep it hidden from prying eyes. Now, as we sprinted under the canopy of ancient trees, the moonlight painted silver stripes on our path. Each step brought us closer to both safety and the heart of a mystery that refused to be silenced. The woods around us whispered secrets, echoing with the remnants of past battles and the quiet, persistent calls of unseen creatures. In that pulse-quickening moment, I could almost hear the heartbeat of the forest, each thump urging me forward. Ian and I had known each other for what felt like a lifetime, a bond forged not only in shared moments of joy, but also in the crucible of peril. Yet tonight, our connection was tested by the shadows of our past. The laughter and gentle teasing we once shared were now intermingled with a tension that vibrated just beneath the surface. His eyes, burning with a mix of tenderness and caution, reminded me that even in our moments of escape, danger lurked at every corner. The Lupine necklace, that fabled heirloom of my lineage, weighed heavily on my mind. It was a symbol of both our heritage and the immense responsibility that came with its power. The power to control wolves, a gift that could be as benevolent as it was catastrophic. My father had tried so hard to keep it out of reach, fearing that someone like Derek, a remorseless and power-hungry adversary, might seize it for his own dark purposes. And now, as we ran with nothing but the rustling of leaves and our pounding hearts as witnesses, the very thought of that cursed necklace sent shivers down my spine. I recalled those early days of innocence, when the only sound in the forest was the playful scurry of wildlife. Back then, my runs with Ian and my friends, Nate, Lee, and Xena, were light-hearted escapes, joyous moments of freedom away from the encumbrances of a world that had already seen too much pain. But tonight was different. Tonight, every shadow seemed to whisper warnings. Every rustle in the underbrush hinted at danger. There was an undeniable urgency in our flight, as if the forest itself was conspiring to keep us from unearthing secrets best left buried. As we dodged between towering trees and hurtled over tangled roots, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a run for fun. It was a journey into the heart of our past, a journey that would force us to confront the darkness that had once ensnared me. With each breath, I sensed the weight of destiny pressing upon me. I was not just a runaway. I was the daughter of an alpha, destined to lead, to protect, and perhaps to sacrifice everything for the sake of my pack. The intensity of the moment was punctuated by a surge of adrenaline. Every fiber of my being was tuned to the rhythm of the chase, as if nature itself had composed a symphony just for us. The forest, with its labyrinthine paths and echoing calls, was a living, breathing entity, a silent witness to our struggles and our triumphs. It was here, under the indifferent gaze of the moon and stars, that I began to truly understand the duality of my existence. I was both human and something more, a creature caught between two worlds, forever haunted by the legacy of the Lupine necklace. In that fleeting moment of freedom, with Ian's hand firmly gripping mine and the wild call of the forest urging us onward, I felt the spark of rebellion ignite within me. It was a spark that would soon blaze into a fire that promised to reclaim our destiny from those who sought to manipulate it. Our run was not just an escape, it was a declaration of defiance, a vow to protect the sanctity of our heritage and the bonds that held us together. As the path wound deeper into the shadowed forest, my heart pounded with both fear and fierce determination. I knew that with each step, we were drawing closer to answers and, perhaps, to a confrontation that would test our very souls. And so, with the Lupine necklace's mysterious power lingering in my thoughts and the promise of love and loyalty echoing in every stride, I pressed on, undaunted, unyielding, and ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The chase had begun, and with it, the promise of a future steeped in mystery, danger, and the undeniable pull of fate. Shattered, calm. The kidnapping and the rescue, the calm of that fateful night shattered like glass. One moment, I was reveling in the thrill of our run, and the next, the world spun wildly as I was abruptly ripped from the safety of the familiar woods. I remember the cold shock of fear gripping my heart as shadows closed in. It wasn't long before I realized I had been kidnapped, an event that would forever haunt my memories. The abduction was swift and brutal. I was ambushed by a group whose faces were hidden behind grim expressions, their intentions as dark as the night itself. In the chaos, a name surfaced in my mind, a name that would forever be linked to betrayal. Jeremy. He had once been someone I trusted, a friend of my father, but that trust was brutally betrayed. Under his coercion, my abductors had forced him into a deal that cost me dearly. The twisted irony of it all still sends a shiver down my spine. Jeremy's involvement was not just an act of betrayal. It was the catalyst for a cascade of events that left me broken and disoriented. In the midst of the turmoil, every sound, every rustle of leaves, every distant howl seemed amplified, merging into a cacophony of terror and uncertainty. I could barely process the reality unfolding around me as they dragged me away, binding my limbs and silencing my cries with harsh words and cruel laughter. The cold, unyielding grip of fear became my constant companion, and I felt as if the world had lost all its color, replaced only by the stark grays of despair. Just when the darkness threatened to swallow me whole, a glimmer of hope emerged. In the depths of that harrowing nightmare, a figure appeared. Pat, a steadfast ally whose arrival was as unexpected as it was life-saving. Pat's presence was like a beacon cutting through the gloom. With an intensity that mirrored the urgency of the moment, he launched into action. In an instant, the captor's grip loosened, and chaos reigned once more as Pat fought valiantly to free me from their clutches. The rescue was both swift and brutal. I remember the blur of fists, the clashing of wills, and the palpable surge of adrenaline as Pat engaged our assailants. Every blow he dealt seemed to echo with the promise of redemption. His eyes burned with determination, and his actions spoke of a loyalty that went beyond words. In that critical moment, his intervention was more than a mere physical rescue. It was a lifeline thrown to me in the deepest of darkness. As the fight reached its climax, I could feel the raw intensity of fear slowly give way to a tentative sense of relief. The captors, taken aback by the sudden reversal of fortune, faltered. With one final decisive strike, Pat incapacitated the last of them, and silence, heavy and somber, settled over the clearing. I was free, if only for a moment, from the nightmare that had threatened to consume me. Yet freedom came at a steep cost. The immediate aftermath was a dizzying mix of shock and sorrow. My body trembled, still bound by the echoes of pain, while my mind raced with memories of betrayal and fear. I could sense that the danger was far from over. Even as we made our escape, the air was thick with tension, a constant unspoken reminder that Derek's shadow still loomed large, and that he might strike again. In the quiet moments following the rescue, as I lay catching my breath and trying to steady my heart, the reality of what had transpired sank in. The aftermath was a fragile calm, a deceptive stillness that belied the storm of emotions raging within me. High alert became our new normal. Every rustle in the dark, every stray whisper of wind, stirred a flicker of dread. The fear that had gripped me during my captivity had not completely dissipated. It had merely retreated into the recesses of my mind, waiting for the next opportunity to pounce. I could see it in the eyes of those around me, a shared understanding that we were all marked by this ordeal. The lingering fear was a silent pact among us, a reminder that trust, once broken, cast long shadows over even the brightest moments of hope. In the days that followed, every member of our pack moved with caution, our steps measured and hearts wary, as if expecting the ground itself to betray us at any moment. For me, the emotional shock was intermingled with a profound, bittersweet relief. Relief that I was alive, that Pat's courage had brought me back from the brink. Yet deep inside, a storm brewed, a mixture of anger, sorrow, and a burning desire for justice. I vowed silently that the Lupine necklace, the source of so much danger, would never again be used to endanger our lives. It was a promise to myself, forged in the darkest of hours, to protect my pack and to ensure that the betrayal that had almost cost me everything would not be repeated. Even now, as I recall the harrowing details of that night, my thoughts are a tumult of conflicting emotions. The taste of fear is bitter, but the resilience that followed is even more potent. The experience has reshaped me, instilling in me a steely resolve and a deep-seated wariness that colors every step I take. And though the memory of that night remains a painful scar, it is also a reminder that even in our darkest moments, hope can emerge, sometimes in the form of a brave soul named Pat, who fights not for glory, but for the simple, unyielding promise of rescue. The path to healing is long and fraught with uncertainty, but I know that each step forward is a step away from the terror of that night. And as I gather my strength, I also gather my resolve to stand tall, to reclaim the calm, and to guard my destiny with every ounce of my being. Moments of intimacy and the dance of danger. In the midst of chaos and uncertainty, there were moments when the world seemed to pause, offering a sliver of tranquility, a fleeting chance to simply be. One such moment unfolded in the deep woods, where the forest's whispered secrets provided both cover and a sense of intimacy. Ian and I had slipped away from the relentless tension of the pack house, seeking solace in the natural embrace of the trees and the muted symphony of night sounds. We ran side by side along a narrow, moonlit path. The rustle of leaves and the distant call of nocturnal creatures mingled with our laughter and soft banter. It was as if the forest itself conspired to create a private sanctuary where only the two of us existed. Ian's presence was a constant reassurance, his hand firmly grasping mine, his eyes reflecting both mischief and genuine tenderness. The world outside, with its betrayals and battles, faded into the background, replaced by the intimate cadence of our shared heartbeat. At one point, as we paused by a gnarled old oak, Ian spun around, playfully closing the gap between us. "You no?" he teased, a warm smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "If I didn't know better, I'd say you were trying to outpace me just so you could steal a kiss." His tone was light, almost mischievous, yet it carried an undercurrent of unspoken promise. I laughed, the sound echoing softly in the cool night air, and pulled him closer, my eyes dancing with affection. "Maybe I was," I admitted with a playful glint. "Or perhaps I just wanted to see that look on your face when you realize I always manage to be one step ahead." Our banter flowed naturally, each quip and retort deepening our connection. Even in a world overrun by lurking threats and lingering betrayals, these moments of levity became precious, a reminder that amid the danger, love still found a way to flourish. But our peaceful escape was interrupted sooner than expected. Out of the shadows emerged a figure from the old pack, a familiar face, John, whose presence brought with it an undercurrent of rivalry and unresolved tension. His shaggy, unruly hair and confident grin were unmistakable, and within seconds, the atmosphere shifted. John's eyes glinted with a challenge as he approached us, his steps measured but purposeful. "Hey there, lovebirds," John drawled with a smirk, his tone laced with both amusement and subtle provocation. "I see you. Two are enjoying some private time out here. I hope you don't mind me cutting in for a moment." His words, though playful, carried a weight of history, an unspoken reminder of past affiliations and the complexities of loyalty that still simmered beneath the surface. Ian's grip on my hand tightened ever so slightly, a silent signal that he was ready to defend our sanctuary. I could feel his protective warmth, and in that shared glance between us, a myriad of emotions flashed: confidence, love, and a fierce determination to safeguard what we had. "John," Ian said coolly, his voice steady despite the charged undercurrent, "you know we're not here to cause trouble, just giving each other a little break from all that madness." There was a polite firmness in his tone, a reminder that our bond was not something to be trifled with. John chuckled, feigning innocence as he stepped back with a nod. "Fair enough," he replied, though the slight arch of his eyebrows suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. For a moment, the woods fell silent again, the tension lingering like dew in the cool night air. But just as quickly as the conflict had surfaced, it dissipated, replaced by a mutual, albeit guarded, acknowledgement of our separate roles in the grander scheme of the pack's legacy. Once John had receded into the darker recesses of the forest, Ian turned back to me, his eyes softening with relief and lingering affection. "I'd say we dodged a bullet there," he murmured, his tone tender. I nodded, smiling as I brushed a stray lock of hair from my face. Every time we're together, it feels like we're carving out a small world that belongs only to us, even if just for a few moments. There was a wistfulness in my words, a desire to cling to these stolen instants, these pockets of sanity amid the maelstrom of our lives. We resumed our stroll, now with an even deeper appreciation for the safety of our little haven. The forest, with its age-old wisdom and soft, flickering light, seemed to cradle us in a gentle embrace. Every footstep, every shared laugh, became a testament to our resilience and the quiet defiance of love against a backdrop of relentless danger. In that serene interlude, my mind drifted to the future. A future where perhaps our private moments could grow into something even more enduring, where the scars of past betrayals might heal into the strength of unwavering trust. Yet, the bittersweet taste of our current reality was not lost on me. I knew that these peaceful respites were as fleeting as they were precious, and that danger lurked ever closer, ready to disrupt our delicate equilibrium at any moment. Still, for now, in the midst of the whispering woods and beneath the watchful gaze of the night sky, Ian and I existed in a bubble of soft light and shared dreams. It was in these moments of intimacy, punctuated by the ever-present dance of danger, that I realized how vital it was to hold on to every smile, every playful tease, every lingering touch. For in a world where chaos reigned, these tender fragments of happiness were what kept our spirits alive and our hearts beating with hope. As we continued along the moonlit path, the forest around us seemed to echo with the promise of tomorrow, a tomorrow where love, resilience, and the will to defy the dark forces that threatened our existence would always find a way to shine through. Homecoming, reunions, jokes, and cautious bonds. As the first hints of dawn broke through the dense canopy, our journey back to the Alpha House began. A return that was as much a reunion as it was a cautious step back into a world fraught with both familiarity and lingering danger. The path we trod was lined with soft dewdrops and the gentle hum of waking nature, yet beneath the serene exterior, our hearts pounded with anticipation and unspoken worries. Leading the way was Jason, his confident stride marking the pace of our return. His face, etched with both concern and a quiet determination, radiated the warmth of a steadfast leader. Alongside him, Jeremy's presence was a reminder of past betrayals and unresolved tensions, a silent warning that not every familiar face carried only fond memories. Still, even amidst these mixed emotions, the pack's dynamic remained unmistakably strong, a testament to the bonds forged through shared struggles. We moved as a collective, our steps echoing a blend of relief and caution. The Alpha House, our haven and battleground, loomed ahead like a beacon in the distance. Every familiar corner of the house stirred memories of laughter and shared tears, moments when the chaos of our world melted away into simple, unguarded camaraderie. Yet as we approached, the air was thick with a palpable sense of responsibility and the weight of unspoken promises to protect, to unite, and to stand as one against the relentless tide of danger. The moment we crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The once tense air was now punctuated with the boisterous laughter of friends reuniting after long, harrowing days. I caught snippets of conversation, playful jibes, and heartfelt embraces that filled every room with a sense of homecoming. It was as if every creaking floorboard and familiar piece of furniture was imbued with the essence of our collective history, a living tapestry woven from countless shared moments. Jason, ever the charismatic mediator, greeted each of us with a hearty smile and a warm handshake. "Welcome home, everyone," he boomed, his voice resonating with genuine care and a hint of amusement at our disheveled state. His words, simple yet powerful, served as a balm to our frayed nerves. Even Jeremy, despite his previous missteps, offered a nod of acknowledgement, a silent truce in the wake of our shared ordeal. In one corner of the living room, a group of younger pack members huddled together, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and relief. They listened intently as older members recounted snippets of the recent rescue. A story laced with danger, heartbreak, but also the triumph of unity. Their faces lit up with admiration and a spark of hope that, despite everything, the pack would always come together to protect its own. Amidst the laughter and chatter, there was an undercurrent of cautious vigilance. I couldn't help but notice the subtle glances exchanged between friends, each look a quiet reminder of the ever-present threat lurking just beyond our doorstep. Even in moments of levity, the weight of our shared struggles and the bitter taste of betrayal remained. Yet, these cautious bonds were what made our reunions all the more precious. They were the evidence of our resilience, a pledge that we would continue to fight for one another. The transition from the open, raw energy of the forest back into the structured yet familiar chaos of the Alpha House was seamless. Every room told a story. The kitchen, filled with the aroma of fresh coffee and warm pastries, buzzed with lighthearted teasing about who had managed to scavenge the best supplies during our escape. In the dining area, a long table bore witness to the effortless blend of tension and relief as we sat together, sharing meals and stories that defied the darkness outside. I found myself drawn to a quiet corner of the room, where a couple of close friends exchanged knowing smiles over inside jokes. Their laughter was a subtle defiance against the fear that still gnawed at our edges. In these moments, it wasn't just about returning home. It was about reclaiming a sense of normalcy, however fragile it might be. It was a reminder that no matter how dark our journey had been, there were still sparks of joy and warmth to be found in the camaraderie of those who understood our unique struggles. As I moved through the room, familiar faces greeted me with tender smiles and gentle touches on the shoulder. Ian's presence was a constant anchor, his hand warm and reassuring in mine, a silent promise that together we would navigate the complexities of our dual lives. Even in the midst of playful banter and light teasing, every interaction was laced with a deep, unspoken respect, a mutual understanding that each of us carried scars both seen and hidden. The reunion was not without its moments of rivalry and cautious whispers. There were brief, almost imperceptible exchanges of guarded words, a subtle dance of pride and protective instincts that sometimes bordered on conflict. Yet, even those moments of rivalry were quickly diffused by a shared laugh or a conciliatory gesture. It was a delicate balance, a dance of intimacy and defiance, that defined the essence of our pack. In the heart of the Alpha House, surrounded by friends who were both family and comrades, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The recollections of our recent trials, the haunting memories of kidnapping, and the betrayal that had cut so deeply, were all tempered by the warmth of our reunion. It was here, in this familiar haven, that the pain of the past was slowly healing, replaced by the cautious yet unyielding bonds of loyalty and love. Returning home was more than just a physical journey. It was a moment of reflection and resolve. As we settled into the rhythms of the Alpha House once more, the playful jokes and cautious glances became the fabric of our shared future, a future where each laugh and every gentle embrace was a testament to our collective strength. And in that moment, surrounded by the people who had become my world, I knew that despite the lingering shadows, we were ready to face whatever came next. Forging warriors, the rigorous training sessions, the rhythmic thud of fists against padded bags and the grunts of exertion set the tempo in Dylan's basement, a makeshift arena where our pack honed our skills for battles both seen and unseen. This cavernous space, lit by harsh industrial lights and filled with the scent of sweat and determination, became our crucible. Here, under the stern yet encouraging gaze of Dylan, every member of the pack was transformed from raw potential into a disciplined warrior. Dylan's voice resonated throughout the room, steady and commanding. "Remember, it's not just about brute strength," he would say, pausing to observe our movements with a keen, analytical eye. "It's about balance, precision, and the ability to anticipate your opponent's next move." His technical tips were as invaluable as the physical drills themselves. With each demonstration, he broke down complex maneuvers into a series of clear, methodical steps. We learned how to maintain our footing, shift our weight, and use our natural agility to our advantage, lessons that were critical for those who would one day lead our pack. I could feel the intensity of our sessions in every muscle and heartbeat. In one corner of the room, a mock battle unfolded between two of our younger members, their movements a blur of speed and calculated aggression. The clash of simulated blows was punctuated by laughter and playful banter, a reminder that despite the harsh training, camaraderie was the soul of our unity. Each strike, each evasive maneuver, built not only our physical prowess, but also our trust in one another. There was an unspoken understanding among us. Every challenge we faced in these sessions was a step toward greater strength, a preparation for the inevitable trials that lay beyond these walls. I found myself at the center of it all, driven by a fierce determination that burned like a fire within. Every jab, every dodge, was not only a test of skill, but also a declaration of my commitment to lead. I was preparing myself to be the future alpha, and every drop of sweat was a testament to that promise. Even as I engaged in intense sparring sessions, my mind was methodically piecing together strategies for future battles. I envisioned a time when I would stand at the helm, guiding our pack with wisdom and courage, and these sessions were the forging grounds of that destiny. Dylan occasionally paired me with different opponents, each session challenging me in new ways. One day, I was matched with a swift and agile fighter whose unpredictable style forced me to adapt on the fly. Another day, my partner was a powerhouse whose strength pushed me to my limits. Through these varied encounters, I learned to balance my own aggressive instincts with calculated precision. Every strike I landed, every counter move I executed, was a lesson in leadership. A reminder that being alpha wasn't about domination, but about inspiring and protecting those who followed me. Between rounds, Dylan would gather us in a semicircle to discuss what we'd learned. Technique is the backbone of strength, he emphasized, his tone both encouraging and incisive. In every fight, whether against a rival or the obstacles life throws at you, the mastery of your own body and mind is what sets you apart. His words resonated deeply within me, stirring a quiet resolve that bolstered my confidence. The space was alive with the spirit of growth, each of us absorbing not only physical techniques, but also the deeper lessons of strategy, discipline, and unity. The atmosphere in Dylan's basement was a delicate blend of intensity and methodical preparation. Every sound, the slap of a fist on a heavy bag, the shuffle of feet on worn concrete, even the occasional murmur of encouragement from a fellow pack member, merged into a symphony of purpose. Even amidst the exertion, there was an undeniable cadence, a rhythmic pulse that reminded us all that we were part of something larger than ourselves. It was this cadence that gave our training a sense of inevitability, as if every measured step and every calculated move was leading us closer to our ultimate destiny. In the midst of the rigorous training, there were also moments of lighthearted relief. Between drills, I'd catch glimpses of laughter shared among friends, a quick exchange of witty remarks, or a playful nudge that broke the tension of a particularly grueling round. These brief interludes of humor were like sparks in the dark, illuminating the fact that even as we prepared for battle, we remained bound by loyalty and a genuine affection for one another. This balance between intensity and playfulness was the very essence of our pack's dynamic, a dynamic that fueled our growth and made us stronger together. As the sessions progressed, I felt a transformation not just in my physical strength, but in my very essence. Each challenge was met with a combination of fierce determination and measured calm, a duality that perfectly encapsulated the spirit of our urban fantasy world. The training sessions in Dylan's basement were more than just preparation for a fight. They were a crucible in which I was being shaped into the leader I was destined to become. I left the basement each day with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of what it meant to be part of this pack. Every lesson learned, every skill honed, was a stepping stone toward a future where I could protect those I loved and stand against any threat that dared challenge our unity. The memory of each training session, with its blend of physical rigor and emotional intensity, was etched into my soul, a constant reminder that strength, when tempered with wisdom and compassion, could defy even the darkest of destinies. In that relentless rhythm of training, the fire within me blazed brighter. I was no longer just a participant in the pack's journey. I was becoming its heartbeat, a symbol of hope and resilience. And as we continued to forge our warriors under Dylan's watchful eye, I knew that every drop of sweat and every moment of pain was paving the way for a legacy that would outlast even the most harrowing of nights. A moment's respite, escaping into the woods. In the quiet pre-dawn, when the world still clung to the soft whispers of sleep, a spontaneous decision ignited among us. We gathered with a silent, shared understanding that sometimes the only way to reclaim a fragment of our stolen freedom was to simply run. The forest, cloaked in a gentle mist and bathed in the first tender hues of sunrise, beckoned us, a natural sanctuary away from the ceaseless pressures of the pack house and the looming threat that shadowed our every step. The moment we burst out into the open, the cool, dewy air enveloped us like a rejuvenating embrace. I felt the thrill of liberation in every inhalation as we took off along a narrow, winding path, our feet barely making a sound on the soft, moss-covered ground. The trees, ancient sentinels of nature, arched gracefully overhead, their leaves whispering secrets of a time when life was simpler and danger a distant rumor. For a brief while, the forest became our world, a sanctuary of possibility where tension faded into the background. Ian led the charge, his determined eyes scanning the path ahead, even as his laughter mingled with mine. His presence was a reminder that amidst the constant battles, we still possessed the capacity for light-hearted mischief. Every now and then, his hand would slip into mine, an unspoken promise that even in moments of vulnerability, we could find strength in each other. I stole a playful glance at him, and our smiles exchanged were more potent than any battle cry, a testament to the love that had anchored us through our darkest days. Our group was a lively blend of the pack's soul, a collection of kindred, spirits eager to momentarily escape the weight of our responsibilities. Nate's infectious chuckle, Lee's teasing remarks, and Zena's radiant grin blended with our collective heartbeat, creating a tapestry of camaraderie. Even in the midst of a run, there was an interplay of playfulness and vigilance that underscored our every step. We joked and teased one another, our voices carrying in the cool air as we sprinted through sun-dappled clearings and navigated the labyrinth of undergrowth. The woods were alive with vivid imagery, the delicate droplets of dew that clung to each blade of grass, the vibrant burst of wildflowers peeking through the shadows, and the soft rustle of leaves stirred by our hurried steps. Each scene was a fleeting reminder of nature's inherent beauty and resilience, a parallel to our own journey. In that moment, every sprint felt like a defiant act against the encroaching darkness, a brief yet powerful assertion that we were still here, still alive, and still capable of joy despite the lingering threats. As we ran, the steady rhythm of our collective heartbeat provided a kind of meditative cadence. In the midst of our laughter and playful shouts, there was a subtle, unspoken understanding that these moments were more than mere respite. They were necessary preparations for the challenges ahead. Each stride, each breath, served as a quiet rehearsal for the battles to come. The freedom we experienced in the woods was not just physical. It was a mental cleansing, a chance to reset our inner resolve before the storm of conflict and responsibility resumed. At one point, we paused by a sparkling stream that cut through the forest floor like a silver thread. The gentle murmur of water cascading over smooth stones became a soothing lullaby, inviting us to momentarily still our racing hearts. We gathered there, faces turned up to catch the early light as it danced on the rippling surface. There was a fleeting intimacy in those quiet minutes, a chance to look into each other's eyes and recognize that, despite the chaos of our lives, we were united by a bond that transcended fear and uncertainty. I found myself lost in the vibrant reflections of the water, contemplating the delicate balance between the beauty of our present escape and the harsh realities that awaited us beyond the tree line. This brief respite was a delicate reminder that, even in a world filled with treacherous secrets and relentless threats, there existed moments of pure, unadulterated freedom. A moment when the burdens of leadership and the scars of betrayal could be momentarily set aside in favor of the simple pleasure of running free. Resuming our journey, the forest once again echoed with our collective energy as we took off down a familiar trail. The interplay of shadows and light created a moving canvas that mirrored our fluctuating emotions, a blend of exuberance and caution. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath, waiting for the next chapter of our story to unfold. This ephemeral escape, while joyous and invigorating, also planted a seed of reflection within each of us. In those precious moments away from the packhouse's oppressive tension, we rediscovered not only the beauty of our natural surroundings, but also the strength of our inner selves. The run was a stark, unspoken promise that no matter how encroaching the darkness, we would always find a way to renew our spirit and continue fighting. And so, with the forest as our witness, and the rising sun casting long, hopeful shadows on our path, we returned from our brief escape, carrying with us a renewed sense of purpose, a subtle, yet profound reminder that even in the midst of looming threats, moments of pure, unbridled freedom could serve as the foundation for the strength and resilience we needed for the battles ahead. Ominous warnings. The threat emerges. The stillness of the Alpha House was suddenly ruptured by a palpable tension as a letter arrived, its presence carrying the weight of impending doom. In that fateful moment, every heartbeat seemed to echo, louder in the silent hallways, and a shiver of dread crept through us all. I held the envelope in my trembling hands, its coarse paper and stark handwritten message speaking of secrets too dangerous to ignore. The letter was from Derek, a name that had haunted our pack for too long, now rearing its malevolent head once more. As I unfolded the note with a mix of trepidation and resolve, a heavy silence descended over the room. My eyes scanned the inked words, each sentence a venomous declaration that pierced through the fragile calm we had fought so hard to build. Derek's message was as chilling as it was clear. He demanded that Jeremy deliver the Lupine necklace, an artifact of immeasurable power that had long been a source of both our strength and our vulnerability. But his demands went far beyond that. The letter was laced with threats, each line more sinister than the last. He warned that if his conditions were not met, he would unleash a wave of retribution that would leave not just me, but everyone I held dear, in ruins. Loved ones, friends, and even the younger pack members were all named as potential targets, collateral in his twisted plan for domination. The words burned on the page, each syllable igniting a firestorm of shock and anger within me. I could feel the raw emotion seething just beneath the surface of my composed exterior. It was as if Derek's cold, calculated threats had invaded every corner of my mind, leaving me with a gnawing sense of vulnerability and betrayal. My thoughts raced. How could he be so brazen? What dark designs did he have that led him to resort to such despicable measures? In that moment, every shared memory of our battles, every whispered plan for the future, took on an ominous tint. Around me, the pack reacted in kind. Jason's face grew stern as he read over my shoulder, his eyes narrowing with a mix of concern and fury. Jeremy's usually composed demeanor was shattered, replaced by a grim resolve that hinted at the many sleepless nights this letter would haunt him. Even the younger members, who had been the source of light and laughter just hours before, now sat in near silence, their eyes wide with a dawning realization of the peril that loomed. The room was charged with a silence that was both heavy and electric, each of us grappling with the immediate fear of what was to come. Internal dialogues raced through my mind, questions without answers that churned like stormy seas. How far would Derek go? Was there any hope of thwarting his relentless ambition? The letter, cold and unyielding, did nothing to comfort me. Rather, it amplified every ounce of anxiety and determination I felt. I could sense the collective heartbeat of the pack, each thump a reminder of our shared fate. The letter had become more than just a piece of paper. It was a harbinger of chaos, a trigger that would ignite the long-dormant embers of resistance. The demand for the Lupine necklace was not merely a request. It was a challenge, a direct confrontation of our most guarded secrets. And the threats were unambiguously clear. Failure to comply would not only break the bond of trust we had built over years, but would also plunge our world into a new era of terror and loss. As the minutes ticked by in that suffocating stillness, I felt a surge of determination swell within me. The shock and fear mingled with a fierce anger that promised retribution. I resolved that Derek's threats would not dictate our future. My mind was already racing with plans, strategies to ensure that our pack, my family, remained safe at all costs. This was a call to arms, an urgent summons to stand together in the face of darkness. Yet, amidst the rising tide of fury, there was also a glimmer of cautious hope. The pack had weathered storms before, had faced betrayal and peril with unwavering unity. The letter, in its sinister clarity, reminded us that Derek's reach was long, but so was our resolve. We would need every ounce of our collective strength, every shred of our ingenuity, to counter his threats. The time for complacency was over. The moment demanded action. The intensity of that moment lingered in the air long after the letter was read aloud. Every conversation, every whispered plan, in the quiet corridors of the Alpha House, now carried the burden of that ominous warning. We were all acutely aware that the next few hours, days, perhaps even weeks, would be a battle not only against an external enemy, but against the creeping dread that sought to undermine our unity. In that charged atmosphere, the letter's words, became a catalyst for an unspoken vow. A vow that no matter how dire the threat, we would stand together, fight with every fiber of our being, and ensure that the darkness Derek sought to unleash would never eclipse the light of our shared destiny. The fire of rebellion had been lit, and it was burning fiercely in each of us. The threat had emerged, and with it, our determination to defy it, to turn fear into our greatest weapon against those who would seek to tear us apart. With the letter clutched tightly in my hand, I looked around the room, meeting the eyes of my packmates. In that silent exchange, there was a promise, an unyielding commitment to protect one another, to transform Derek's venomous threats into the fuel for our resistance. The storm was coming, and we were ready to face it head-on. United, we stand, a critical pack. Meeting. The dining room of the Alpha House transformed in an instant into a war room, a sanctuary of urgent debate and raw emotion. As the members of our pack gathered around the long, weathered table, every face was etched with worry, determination, and a hint of defiant humor. The room, usually filled with the soft hum of daily life, was now charged with an electric tension that promised both conflict and unity. Jason stood at the head of the table, his presence commanding silence and attention. His deep, resonant voice cut through the murmur of anxious whispers as he addressed us all. "We have received a threat from Derek," he began, his tone both resolute and measured. His demands for the Lupine necklace and his promise of retribution if we do not comply are clear. We are at a crossroads, a moment where our unity will determine our fate. His words were direct, forcing us to confront the gravity of our situation. Jeremy, who had struggled to keep his composure since the letter, added quietly, yet firmly, "This isn't just about a necklace. It's about our very lives and the lives of those we love. Derek's threats extend to each and every one of us. We cannot allow fear to drive us apart." His eyes, filled with a mix of remorse and determination, scanned the room, seeking an unspoken consensus among us. The tension in the room was palpable. For a moment, silence reigned as the weight of Derek's words settled upon us like a heavy fog. Then, a low murmur of dissent broke through. Anger, frustration, and disbelief mingled in the voices of our pack members. One of the younger members, his tone edged with both indignation and raw emotion, shouted, "We cannot simply stand by while our loved ones are threatened. We must act, and we must do so now." Amid the heated debate, a spark of humor unexpectedly flickered through the room. Xena, ever the quick-witted, smirked and quipped, "Well, I never thought a piece of paper could be so threatening. It's almost like it's trying to give us a pep talk in reverse." Her remark, though laced with irony, cut through the tension for a brief, much-needed moment. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the group, a reminder that even in our darkest hours, our collective spirit could not be completely subdued. Yet, even as humor broke the rigidity of our standoff, the stakes remained unyielding. I could feel the conflicting emotions within myself, a cocktail of fear, anger, and a reluctant acceptance that we had no choice but to mobilize. "We all know what's at stake," I said, my voice steady despite the torrent of thoughts raging inside. "Derek's threats are real, and the lives of our pack are on the line. We must formulate a strategy that not only protects us but also sends a clear message that we will not be cowed by his intimidation." A ripple of nods and murmurs of agreement spread across the table. It was clear that while we all harbored our own doubts and fears, the necessity for action unified us. Jason, returning to the forefront, continued, "Tonight, we hold an emergency pack meeting. We need to decide on our next moves, organize patrols, and establish contingency plans. I want every one of you to speak your mind. No idea is too small, no concern too trivial. Our strength lies in our unity and our willingness to stand together against any threat." As the meeting wore on, voices clashed and merged in a symphony of strategies. One elder member, his tone a mix of authority and paternal care, suggested increasing patrols along the perimeter. "We need to be proactive," he insisted, "to ensure that no stray wolf or hidden adversary can take us by surprise." His words resonated with many, reinforcing the need for vigilance. Another member, younger yet resolute, proposed a coordinated counterattack, an idea that was met with a mix of enthusiasm and caution. "It's a bold move," he admitted, "but we must consider the risks. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for the entire pack." His perspective sparked a heated debate, where arguments were exchanged with both passion and precision. Amid these discussions, I found myself weighing the alternatives, every word fueling the fire of my determination to lead. The discussions grew increasingly animated. Emotions flared as we recounted personal losses and the raw pain of betrayal. At one point, an outburst of anger from a longtime friend nearly silenced the room. "How dare he!" the friend roared, his voice shaking with fury. "Derek has no right to threaten us, our children, our future." The room fell into a brief, charged silence as his words echoed, underscoring the deep scars left by past encounters with our enemy. In the midst of this emotional storm, I took a deep breath, trying to channel the chaos into a focused resolve. "We must not let our anger blind us," I urged softly but firmly. "We are wolves, yes, but we are also intelligent, strategic, and united by our bonds. Let our strength be our shield, not our weakness." My words, spoken with a measured clarity, served as a beacon, guiding the discussion back toward a collective path forward. Slowly, a sense of reluctant acceptance began to emerge. We acknowledged that while the threat was dire, our collective resilience and unity had carried us through previous storms. The room, now a blend of determined faces and tear-streaked eyes, was a testament to the indomitable spirit of our pack. In that critical meeting, we resolved to enhance our patrols, fortify our defenses, and, if necessary, prepare for a counter-offensive that would serve as a definitive message to Derek. As the meeting drew to a close, the energy in the room shifted. The passionate debates, emotional outbursts, and moments of humor had forged a renewed sense of camaraderie among us, a unity that was as palpable as the tension in the air. We may have been bruised by betrayal and battered by fear, but together, we stood as an unbreakable force. With plans set and strategies debated, we dispersed from the dining room with heavy hearts yet resolute minds. Every step we took toward our common goal was a step toward reclaiming our power and our future. United, in purpose, we were ready to face the storm that Derek had unleashed, prepared to protect our pack at all costs. Trial by Howl. Testing the bond of the pack. Under the veil of twilight, I set off alone, my heart thundering with both anticipation and resolve, toward the edge of our territory where the local wolf pack alpha held court. The journey was a solitary one, a pilgrimage into the wild unknown that would test not only my strength, but the very essence of our pack's unity. Every step along the moonlit path echoed with the ancestral calls of our kind, as if the forest itself recognized the gravity of this moment. The air was crisp and heavy with mystery as I approached the designated clearing, a sacred ground where our fates intertwined with the primal forces of nature. The clearing was bathed in silver light, the soft glow of the moon casting elongated shadows among the ancient trees. In that ethereal space, time seemed to slow, and every rustle of leaves became a whispered memory of battles fought and bonds forged. Awaiting my arrival was the Wolfpack Alpha, a majestic figure whose presence radiated raw power and wisdom. His eyes, deep and knowing, seemed to hold the secrets of the forest, as if he had witnessed countless moons rise and fall over generations of warriors. As I drew closer, the Alpha's piercing gaze met mine, and a silent communication passed between us, a challenge, a recognition of destiny, and a test of worth. The ritual began with the Alpha circling slowly around me, his deliberate, measured steps marking the cadence of an ancient ceremony. Each pass was a silent question, a test of my resolve and my readiness to embrace the responsibilities of leadership. I stood my ground, my heart steady despite the storm of emotions within. In that moment, the clearing transformed into a living arena where the past and the future converged, and the only language spoken was that of instinct and mutual respect. The circling continued, each round deepening the intensity of our connection. With every measured stride, I could feel the weight of our pack's history pressing down upon me, a legacy of loyalty, sacrifice, and unyielding strength. The Alpha's gaze was relentless, his stare so intense it seemed to peer into the depths of my soul, searching for the spark of the true leader hidden within. It was a test not merely of physical presence, but of inner spirit, of the courage to stand alone and the wisdom to guide others in times of darkness. Time lost its meaning as the ritual unfolded. In the silence of that sacred clearing, I felt the primal pulse of the earth sync with my own heartbeat. Every breath I took was a reaffirmation of who I was, a child of the wild, born to lead, destined to unite. The Alpha's steady circling and unwavering stare became a mirror reflecting both my vulnerabilities and my hidden strengths. I realized that this test was more than a rite of passage. It was an invitation to join the eternal dance of our kind, to become one with the raw, untamed energy of the forest. As the ritual reached its crescendo, a subtle shift occurred. The Alpha's circling slowed, and his gaze softened ever so slightly. In that unspoken moment, a deep understanding passed between us, an acknowledgement that I had proven my worthiness. The challenge had not been one of combat, but of character and conviction. I had stood firm against the onslaught of my own doubts and fears, and in doing so, I had reaffirmed the bond that tied me to our pack. Around me, the distant howls of other pack members resonated, a chorus of approval echoing through the trees. It was as if the entire forest had witnessed my trial and, in its own ancient language, declared that I was ready to shoulder the responsibilities of leadership. The primal connection we shared was undeniable, a network of loyalty and courage that pulsed through every living being in that clearing. In the aftermath of the ritual, I felt a profound shift within me. The Alpha approached, his measured steps closing the distance until he stood before me, his eyes still burning with that fierce ancestral light. "You have faced the trial by Howl and emerged not unscathed, but unbroken," he rumbled, his voice a deep, resonant echo of the wilderness. His words carried the weight of centuries and the promise of a future where our pack could stand united against any foe. In that moment, I knew that the test was not merely about proving myself. It was about cementing the unity of our pack. On the high, ritual was a reminder that every member of our family, from the mightiest warrior to the youngest cub, was interconnected by a bond forged in the heart of the wild. It was an affirmation that leadership was not about dominance, but about embracing our collective strength and guiding our pack with compassion and unwavering resolve. As I left the clearing and retraced my steps toward the Alpha House, the sense of destiny that had taken root within me grew ever stronger. The memory of the ritual, the echo of the Alpha's howls, and the intense gaze that had probed my very soul remained with me, a constant reminder of the path I was destined to follow. In that sacred space, I had not only proven my worth, but had also rekindled the primal flame of our heritage, a flame that would light the way forward, uniting our pack in the face of darkness and uncertainty. Brief respite, a homecoming filled with warmth. After the chaos and tension that had defined our recent days, the long-awaited return home felt like stepping into a gentle embrace. The Alpha House, with its familiar walls and soft, welcoming light, stood as a sanctuary, a stark contrast to the violent world that lay just beyond its doors. As we approached, the rhythmic sound of our footsteps merged with the quiet murmur of a home coming back to life, where every creak of the wooden floor echoed with memories of simpler, more tender moments. Inside, the atmosphere was transformed. The once sterile corridors now hummed with the warm chatter of family and friends. In the spacious dining room, long tables were set with hearty dishes and fresh, home-baked bread that filled the air with a comforting aroma. The gentle clinking of cutlery and soft laughter provided a soothing backdrop to our weary hearts. Here, in this temporary haven, we could finally let our guard down and allow ourselves a brief moment of peace. I found solace in the simple act of sharing a meal. As I sat down at the table, I caught sight of familiar faces, each one etched with lines of worry and determination, yet softened now by the comfort of togetherness. Jason, always the steadfast leader, welcomed us with a warm smile and a hearty, "Welcome home, everyone." His words resonated deeply, a reminder that despite the hardships we faced, our unity was unbroken. Even Jeremy, whose troubled eyes hinted at the heavy burdens he carried, offered a nod that conveyed both regret and renewed resolve. Amid the friendly banter, I could feel the tension of recent battles begin to dissolve. Around me, conversations flowed naturally, stories of small victories, humorous mishaps during our escape, and the gentle teasing that comes only from years of shared experience. The playful jibes of our younger members provided a counterpoint to the grim news of our encounters. Their laughter was infectious, spreading warmth like ripples across a still pond, reminding us that in our collective strength, there was always room for levity. In one corner of the room, I caught sight of Xena and Lee exchanging quiet smiles, their eyes reflecting a mix of relief and mutual understanding. It was in these small, intimate exchanges that I found the true essence of home, moments where the harsh realities of our world melted away, replaced by the unspoken language of love and belonging. I leaned into Ian's embrace as he gently squeezed my hand, his silent gesture speaking volumes of the care and protection we shared. His familiar warmth grounded me, anchoring me to this place of fleeting calm. Later, as we gathered around the large, time-worn table, the meal became a ritual of remembrance and renewal. Alice moved gracefully between the seats, serving steaming bowls of soup and plates brimming with comfort food that seemed to carry with them the promise of healing. Each bite was savored, not just for its flavor, but for the reassurance it brought, a taste of normalcy, and the reaffirmation that home was a place where even the deepest wounds could slowly mend. The room's soft lighting cast gentle shadows on our faces, highlighting expressions of both quiet joy and lingering sorrow. Yet, amid the mix of emotions, there was a collective understanding that these moments of reprieve were precious and necessary. We knew that beyond these walls, danger still loomed, waiting to remind us of the fragility of our peace. But for now, the Alpha House was our sanctuary, a cocoon where the violent outside world was kept at bay. As the evening wore on, the chatter in the dining room mellowed into relaxed conversation. Some of us drifted to the living area, where a worn but comfortable couch offered a place to rest our tired bodies. I sat close to Ian, my head resting gently against his shoulder, as soft, reflective melodies played quietly in the background. In that serene moment, the world outside seemed to fade into a distant memory, replaced by the tender bonds of family and the unspoken promise of tomorrow's hope. The gentle banter among us was punctuated by moments of affectionate teasing and shared glances that spoke of a future where we could rise above our past. Laughter, soft and unforced, filled the air, each chuckle a small defiance against the darkness that had once engulfed us. In those fleeting hours, our hearts could finally breathe, our souls momentarily unburdened by the weight of constant vigilance and fear. Yet, even as the warmth of home cradled us, a subtle undercurrent of caution lingered in the back of our minds. We all understood that this respite was temporary, a brief interlude before the inevitable return to the struggle. But it was precisely this moment, this pause in the storm, that allowed us to gather our strength and fortify our spirits. It was here that we reconnected with who we were, a family bound by love, loyalty, and a shared resilience that would see us through any challenge. As the night deepened, Our conversation turned reflective, filled with quiet promises to hold on to this fleeting sense of peace. We knew that our unity was our greatest asset, and that every shared meal, every tender word, was a building block in the fortress of our collective hope. In the soft glow of the Alpha House, surrounded by the comfort of home, we found the courage to believe in a better tomorrow. A tomorrow where the scars of the past could heal, and the bonds of family would forever light our way through the darkness. And so, in that sacred cocoon of warmth and shared memories, we savored every moment, knowing that even as the violent world outside raged on, here in our little haven, we were safe, loved, and united. Crossing worlds. Life at high school in the pack. The morning air was brisk and filled with the usual excitement of a new school year, yet underneath the routine buzz, I felt the duality of my life more keenly than ever. Today was the day. Ian was enrolling in high school. A day that, on the surface, promised the familiar hum of teenage life. Locker clatter, cafeteria chatter, and the awkward, endearing moments that come with starting a new chapter. But for us, it was far more than that. It was the point where the normalcy of youth collided head-on with the wild, untamed life of the pack. We arrived at the school together, a curious mix of humans and supernatural beings seamlessly blended into the modern chaos of high school corridors. Ian, with his eager smile and a touch of nervousness, clutched his enrollment papers like a lifeline. I walked beside him, feeling every bit the reluctant guardian, torn between the call of a normal life and the fierce responsibility of protecting our pack. My heart pounded with the weight of both worlds, the desire to embrace ordinary teenage routines and the knowledge that every moment out there might be a prelude to danger. The halls were alive with the energy of new beginnings. Students bustled around, their voices echoing off brightly painted lockers, while teachers greeted everyone with warm smiles and encouraging words. Amid all this, I couldn't help but notice the subtle awkwardness that came from being a part of two entirely different realms. For instance, when Ian and I navigated the crowded hallway, a teacher's polite inquiry about his transition had everyone pausing for a moment, as if trying to figure out whether to treat him as just another teenager, or as someone with secrets as wild as the wind. His response was a charming mix of humor and honesty, which only deepened the intrigue among our peers. In class, the contrasts were even more apparent. While most students discussed mundane topics like weekend plans and pop culture, I found myself mentally juggling complex thoughts about pack strategies and the hidden threats lurking in the shadows. The teacher, unaware of the supernatural turmoil simmering just beneath our smiles, launched into a lesson on American literature. I managed to follow along, though my mind drifted to the responsibilities that beckoned me back home to the Alpha House. The irony of it all wasn't lost on me. Here I was, trying to savor a taste of normalcy, while every beat of my heart reminded me of the extraordinary life I was destined to lead. Lunchtime brought its own set of humorous and awkward moments. In the bustling cafeteria, a group of friends from both the human and supernatural sides of our community gathered around our table. The conversation oscillated wildly between discussing the latest viral trends and sharing mischievous tales of past pack escapades. One of the teachers, perhaps too eager to bridge the gap, commented on how unique our group was, prompting a round of lighthearted laughter that felt both genuine and slightly self-conscious. Ian teased me gently about my serious expressions during class, remarking, "I think our friend here was plotting a rescue mission instead of taking notes." His remark, half in jest, made everyone chuckle, yet it also served as a reminder of the ever-present tension between my two worlds. Throughout the day, I couldn't shake the internal struggle that had become all too familiar. There was a part of me that longed for the simplicity of typical teenage life. Late-night pizza runs, spontaneous hangouts, and carefree laughter, shared with friends. Yet, another part of me was irrevocably bound to the responsibilities of the pack, the duty to protect our family from the lurking shadows beyond the everyday. This dual existence often left me feeling like I was walking a tightrope, balancing between the mundane and the extraordinary, between vulnerability and the unyielding strength required to lead. The day unfolded with a series of small, seemingly trivial interactions that, when woven together, painted a vivid picture of my internal conflict. A classmate's innocent compliment on my intense focus made me smile, though it also made me painfully aware that my mind was rarely at rest. Even during group projects, when I was forced to collaborate and share ideas, I could feel the pull of two distinct worlds. The laughter shared, the playful nudges, and even the occasional awkward silences all underscored the fact that I was trying desperately to merge these disparate parts of my identity. Yet, despite the complexity of my emotions, there was also an undeniable sense of hope. The day at high school was a testament to resilience, a reminder that it was possible to navigate the ordinary while carrying the extraordinary within. I watched as Ian's confidence grew with each passing moment. His ability to blend in, to be just another senior while still carrying the legacy of our pack, was nothing short of inspiring. It was a small victory for us, a subtle declaration that our dual lives could coexist, even if only for fleeting moments. By the end of the day, as the final bell rang and the corridors emptied of the day's bustling energy, I felt both a weariness and a quiet triumph. The experiences, the laughs, and the awkward exchanges had all contributed to a mosaic of memories that were as normal as they were surreal. In that balance of light and shadow, I realized that every moment of connection, whether with friends, in the cafeteria, or in quiet reflection as I walked home, was a reminder that I was not alone in this journey. High school had taught me that even in a world divided by normalcy and the supernatural, there was beauty in the convergence. It was a place where, for just a few hours each day, the chaos of our larger battles could be set aside, replaced by the simple, enduring bonds of friendship and the shared experience of growing up. And as I looked forward to tomorrow, I carried with me the hope that one day I might fully reconcile the two worlds that defined me, embracing both the ordinary and the extraordinary, in perfect if fleeting harmony. From light to darkness, an unexpected fall. It began like any other day, a continuation of the delicate balance between moments of fleeting normalcy and the ever-looming threats that defined our world. The morning had been filled with light, laughter, and the shared warmth of friendships at school. I had felt buoyed by the promise of a future where my dual life could coexist, a life of both everyday joys and the weighty responsibilities of my supernatural legacy. But as the hours unfolded, that sense of ease was shattered in an instant, plunging me into a darkness I had not anticipated. It happened so suddenly that I scarcely had time to react. One moment, I was walking down a quiet corridor between classes, my mind still humming with the light-hearted banter of the day. The next, a wave of overwhelming dizziness washed over me, as if the ground beneath my feet had suddenly given way. I felt my vision blur at the edges, colors and shapes dissolving into a swirling mass of confusion. A deep, internal dissonance gripped me, a cacophony of heartbeats and scattered thoughts that echoed in the silence. In that brief, terrifying moment, the world transformed. The familiar hum of student chatter, the vibrant corridors of high school life, and even the gentle rustle of leaves outside all faded into a distant murmur. All that remained was a suffocating weight, a black void that pressed against my eyelids. I reached out, trying to anchor myself to something solid, a hand on a locker, the sound of a friend's voice. But nothing could halt the sudden descent. I remember the last few seconds with excruciating clarity, the sensation of my limbs growing numb, the rapid, panicked beating of my heart, and the desperate struggle to keep my consciousness intact. My surroundings began to spin in an inescapable whirl. And then, without warning, the world went dark. When I awoke, I was no longer in the bright, bustling corridors of high school. Instead, I found myself in a state of disorientation, suspended between lucidity and oblivion. My senses slowly returned, but they brought with them an unsettling uncertainty about my fate. There was a lingering echo of the light, a memory of the day's warmth and laughter, but it was now tainted by the sharp edge of fear and vulnerability. The sudden collapse left me with a profound sense of isolation. I was acutely aware of the fragility of my own existence and the ever-present danger that seemed to seep into every crack of our carefully constructed reality. Questions swirled in my mind like a relentless storm. Had the collapse been triggered by the strain of balancing two disparate worlds? Was it a harbinger of a deeper crisis looming on the horizon? I could feel my body trembling, not merely from physical weakness, but from the shock of the unexpected plunge into darkness. In that uncertain state, every sound became amplified. The distant murmur of voices, the soft creak of the floor beneath me, even the steady, rhythmic drip of water from a leaky faucet, all melded into a dissonant symphony that underscored my precarious condition. Each noise was a reminder that I was still here, that the world had not ended, but was now a labyrinth of potential dangers waiting to be revealed. I struggled to piece together my surroundings, my mind working frantically to establish some semblance of normalcy. Yet, the shadow of that sudden collapse clung to me like a second skin. The vibrant hues of the day had given way to a palette of grays and muted tones, each one a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The unexpected fall was not just a physical collapse. It was an emotional and psychological rupture that left me questioning everything I had taken for granted just moments before. As the minutes passed in that suspended twilight between consciousness and oblivion, a deep, unsettling thought began to take root. I was vulnerable. The seamless balance I had so meticulously tried to maintain was shattered, and with it, this illusion of control. The uncertainty of my fate gnawed at me, a relentless whisper that spoke of impending crises and challenges yet unseen. What if this collapse was a prelude to something far more sinister? A sign that the forces we had been battling were ready to strike again. The fear was not just for myself, but for the pack, for the people who had come to rely on our strength and unity. I could almost hear the distant echoes of worried voices, the murmurs of concern from my friends, and the silent, unspoken promises that we would never let our guard down. And yet, in that moment of profound uncertainty, I was left alone with my thoughts, a solitary figure suspended between light and darkness. In the aftermath of my collapse, as I slowly gathered the remnants of my shattered composure, I realized that the crisis was not over. It had only just begun. The unexpected fall was a stark, brutal reminder that our lives were perpetually balanced on the knife edge of chaos and calm. It was a call to arms, a reminder that even as we found moments of ease and solace, danger lurked around every corner, waiting for a chance to strike. That day marked a turning point, a moment when the delicate balance of my dual existence was violently disrupted. The shock of the collapse, the ensuing darkness, and the gnawing uncertainty of what lay ahead coalesced into a single, overwhelming truth. I had to be stronger, not just for myself, but for everyone who depended on me. And as I lay there, vulnerable yet resolute, I vowed to transform that fear into a driving force, a force that would propel me forward into the next chapter of this relentless, unpredictable journey. The plunge into darkness had not ended my story. Rather, it had set the stage for a new, daunting battle, a battle for control, for survival, and for the fragile light that still flickered within us all. Captive shadows, enduring a nightmare in confinement. When I finally came to, darkness surrounded me, cold, unyielding, and absolute. My eyes fluttered open to reveal a stark gray ceiling, and I quickly realized I was no longer in the relative safety of familiar places. Instead, I found myself confined within a concrete jail cell, its walls unadorned and mercilessly bare. The chill of the concrete seeped into my bones, and with every shallow breath, a profound sense of isolation gripped me. It was as if the world outside had been erased, leaving me trapped in a nightmare where time and hope stood still. My initial moments were a blur of confusion and pain. I could barely recall the events that led me here, a series of desperate struggles, the echo of violent clashes, and the sudden collapse that had pulled me into oblivion. The memory of past rescue attempts flickered at the edge of my mind like dying embers, reminders of both salvation and failure. I wondered if any of that had meant anything at all, or if I was now doomed to endure this grim fate alone. The cell was small, the air heavy with the scent of damp concrete and stale despair. Every movement was a reminder of my captivity. My wrists throbbed from the cold metal handcuffs that chained me to a rusted iron fixture embedded in the wall. The restraints bit into my skin, leaving angry red welts that stung with each shift of my body. Pain was not just physical. It intertwined with my emotions, pressing down on my spirit as the cold reality of confinement sank in. I tried to gather my thoughts, focusing on the steady rhythm of my heartbeat as a measure of life persisting despite the darkness. In that moment of forced stillness, memories of previous escapes mingled with the present horror. I recalled the chaotic rescue attempt by Pat. His determined face, his fierce blows, the way he had fought to break me free from my captors. Yet those memories were bittersweet, reminding me that while I had been rescued before, I had also been left vulnerable, exposed to threats that continued to lurk in the shadows. Now, with the heavy silence of this concrete cell as my only company, those memories echoed like ghosts, urging me to cling to hope. Time in captivity seemed to stretch on indefinitely. I counted the minutes by the sound of dripping water, each drop a relentless reminder of my isolation. The quiet was punctuated only by the occasional creak of the building or the distant hum of activity I could no longer reach. With every passing second, the cell became a prison not just for my body, but for my mind. I was forced to confront the raw, unfiltered truth of my situation, a sense of abandonment and fear that threatened to overwhelm me. Despite the torment, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I refused to let the concrete walls, cold as they were, become the final chapter of my story. My mind, though clouded by pain and uncertainty, began to strategize. I recalled the training sessions, the discipline that had been instilled in me as part of the pack. I knew that survival depended on more than physical strength. It depended on mental fortitude, on the ability to find order in chaos. Every ache and every bruise was a testament to the battles I had fought before this moment. The scars on my back, the bruises on my arms, were not marks of defeat, but of survival. I focused on each pain point, willing it to become a source of strength. In the depths of that concrete jail cell, I clung to the belief that every moment endured was a step toward reclaiming my freedom, a step toward fighting back against the forces that sought to break me. I began to recall whispered strategies shared by my pack during those tense nights of planning and escape. Their voices, though distant now, filled me with determination. I visualized the faces of my friends, Jason's steadfast resolve, Ian's gentle reassurance, Zena's fierce loyalty, and allowed their strength to seep into my weary soul. In that dark, suffocating cell, I drew on the collective spirit of the pack. Their courage became my own, and I resolved that I would not succumb to despair. As I lay there, physically restrained but mentally alert, I made a silent promise to myself. I vowed that I would endure this trial, not merely as an act of survival, but as a prelude to my eventual escape and retaliation. I would transform every pang of pain into a rallying cry for liberation. The cell might imprison my body, for now, but it could not cage my spirit. Every second in captivity was a lesson, a preparation for the greater battle that lay ahead. The intensity of my emotions was overwhelming, a mix of anger, fear, and a burning desire to reclaim control of my destiny. I whispered silent affirmations into the darkness, reminding myself that this was not the end. The cell, though grim and confining, was just one obstacle in a larger, ongoing struggle, a struggle that would define who I was and who I would become. In that oppressive solitude, my mind wove a tapestry of resolve and strategy. I contemplated every detail of my confinement, mentally mapping the cell's dimensions, the position of the restraints, and even the faintest cracks in the wall. Each observation was catalogued, stored away as potential tools for escape. The pain and the isolation sharpened my focus, compelling me to use every resource, every ounce of ingenuity, to plan for the future. I could feel the weight of impending challenges pressing upon me, yet amidst the dark uncertainty, a quiet determination blossomed. I was not defeated. I was merely confined for the moment. And in that moment, as I endured the captive shadows of this nightmare, I vowed to rise again, stronger and more resolute than ever before. The journey from darkness to light had only just begun. Whispers of freedom, the seeds of an escape plan, in the suffocating silence of my concrete cell, the darkness was slowly pierced by the soft glow of resolve. Despite the chains that bound my wrists and the weight of confinement pressing against my spirit, I refused to surrender to despair. Instead, I began to quietly plot my escape, a plan born from the whispered hopes of freedom and the unbreakable bond I shared with my pack. Even as my body ached from every bruise and every cut from the restraints, my mind raced with ideas. I recalled every moment of training, every strategy discussed in hushed tones during our late-night meetings at the Alpha House. Those memories now served as blueprints for my escape. I focused on every detail of my current surroundings. The slight unevenness in the concrete, the position of the rusted iron fixture to which my handcuffs were locked, and even the faintest sounds beyond my cell. Each observation was a clue, a piece of the puzzle that might one day lead to my freedom. Using the strength of our mental bond, a connection forged through years of shared hardship, I reached out silently to Ian and Xena. In the quiet recesses of my mind, their voices resonated clearly, cutting through the oppressive solitude. "I'm here," I communicated, each thought sent with careful precision. "I need your help. We have to plan my rescue." I could almost feel Ian's reassuring grip, even though we were separated by distance and metal. His calm, steady tone responded immediately. "We're working on it. Hold on, Leia. We're all with you." Xena's voice, soft but determined, echoed next. "Stay strong. I'll alert the others. We're coming for you." Time seemed both to stretch and collapse in those moments. Every second felt critical, a ticking clock that urged us to act before the enemy could tighten their grip. Back at the Alpha House, amidst hushed whispers and furtive glances, our pack had already begun to stir. The urgent need to coordinate. A rescue had ignited a flurry of strategic discussions. Jason, ever the leader, rallied a small team and instructed them to work on a multi-pronged plan. I could sense the focused determination in his thoughts. We must disrupt their routine. Patience is a luxury we can no longer afford. Through our mental link, I provided details of my cell, the dimensions, the location of the door, even the slight creaks in the structure that might indicate a weakness. My recollections of previous rescue attempts, those fleeting moments when hope almost pierced the darkness, served as a guide. I recalled Pat's fierce intervention, the way he'd exploited a brief lapse in our captor's vigilance. "There was a time," I whispered in my mind, "when a single, well-timed move changed everything. I need that same spark now." Ian's response was instantaneous and resolute. "We'll recreate that moment. Trust in our bond." Within the labyrinthine corridors of the Alpha House, the strategy began to crystallize. A plan emerged, built on the foundation of our mental communication and the urgency of the situation. The rescue would require stealth, precision, and a coordinated effort that left no room for error. We discussed the timing meticulously, choosing the moment when the guards would be at their most complacent. Xena, with her keen sense of the pack's dynamics, outlined the movements of each member, while Ian was tasked with monitoring our captors' routines from afar. The plan had to be clever and swift. We needed to exploit every advantage, including the very nature of our mental bond. Through silent signals, we shared our observations and updated each other on the slightest changes in our environment. I could almost feel the adrenaline surge as the pieces of our strategy began to align in real time. Every whispered thought, every deliberate pause in our connection, became a lifeline, a shared secret that carried our collective hope. The urgency of our situation was palpable. I felt a deep, pulsing need to break free, not just for my own survival, but for the future of our entire pack. My mind raced with the duality of fear and determination, a paradox that had become my constant companion. Even as the darkness of the cell threatened to engulf me, the clarity of our plan shone like a beacon in the night. In that moment, I realized that the challenge was not solely about escaping the physical confines of my cell. It was about defying the very forces that sought to diminish us. The strategy was more than a rescue. It was a statement of defiance, a bold declaration that even in our most constrained moments, our will to survive and protect one another would never falter. I clung to each fragment of hope as if it were a precious treasure. The sound of distant footsteps, the low murmur of voices beyond the cell door, every minor detail was catalogued in my mind. It was as if the concrete walls around me were not just barriers, but canvases on which our escape would be painted, a masterpiece of resilience and cunning. At times, the isolation threatened to overwhelm me, but the echo of my pack's thoughts, warm, unwavering, and resolute, kept me grounded. "Hold on," I murmured internally. "This is not the end. We will break these chains." The mental connection with Ian and Xena provided a steady rhythm to my thoughts, a pulse that reminded me that I was never truly alone. Every calculated detail, every moment of mental synchronization, built the seeds of our escape plan. The clarity and urgency of our shared strategy cut through the oppressive darkness like a knife, carving out a path toward liberation. I felt my resolve harden with each passing moment, a defiant promise that no matter how deeply I was ensnared, I would emerge victorious. As the minutes melded into an eternity, the plan solidified in the depths of my mind. The seeds of freedom had been sown, nurtured by the urgency of our situation and the unbreakable bond of our collective spirit. I knew that soon, the moment of action would come, a moment when the silence of this cell would give way to the roar of liberation. And until that moment arrived, I would hold on to every whispered thought, every shared hope, as the promise of escape and the promise of freedom. Breaking chains. A treacherous journey to freedom. The plan was set in motion under a sky streaked with darkening clouds, a portent of the treacherous path ahead. Our escape from Derek's compound was imminent, and every heartbeat pulsed, with both dread and a fierce hope. As we slipped silently from the cell block, the cold night air wrapped around us, a sharp reminder of the danger we were about to face. I led the way, guided by the steady rhythm of our mental bond, my mind linked with Ian and Xena as we navigated the labyrinthine corridors. Every step was calculated, every shadow scrutinized. The compound itself loomed like a fortress built on cruelty and control, its high walls and guarded entrances a stark contrast to the fragile freedom we now craved. The tension was electric. The threat of discovery hung over us like a heavy shroud. A narrow passage near the rear of the compound, we encountered a figure emerging from the darkness. Lewis, a young and lean werewolf with eyes that flickered with cautious determination. His presence was unexpected, but there was an air of authenticity about him. He regarded us silently for a moment, as if measuring our intentions. In that charged pause, trust and skepticism warred within me. Could he be an ally, or was he a spy sent by Derek? "Who are you?" I asked in a low, controlled voice, not daring to reveal too much. Lewis's expression softened slightly. "I'm Lewis," he replied, his tone steady. "I've been watching, waiting for a chance to help." I know what Derek's capable of, and I can't stand by while he hurts more of our own." His words were simple yet laden with sincerity, and in that instant, my instincts told me to trust him. I exchanged a brief glance with Ian, whose silent nod reassured me that our gut feelings were in alignment. With Lewis joining our fledgling band of rebels, we slipped into the shadows, our journey out of the compound unfolding like a high-stakes chase. The corridors were dimly lit, and every footstep echoed ominously against cold, hard surfaces. The claustrophobic interior gradually gave way to open ground, a courtyard where the moon cast long, eerie shadows. It was here that our escape truly began. The physical journey out was as daunting as the internal battle raging within me. Each stride was an act of defiance against the chains of captivity, each breath a declaration of our unyielding resolve. I could feel the adrenaline surging through my veins, a potent mixture of fear and determination that both sharpened my senses and set my heart racing. The compound's guards were not far behind in my mind, their potential threat ever present even in the stillness of the night. As we moved stealthily through the compound's outer perimeter, Lewis took the lead for a stretch, his instincts guiding us through narrow, hidden passageways that seemed to whisper secrets of long-forgotten escapes. The crisp night air was punctuated by the distant howls of guard dogs and the occasional metallic clank, each sound sending a shiver of urgency through our group. In those moments, trust became our most vital currency. I relied on Lewis's familiarity with the compound's hidden roots, while Ian's steady hand in mine served as an anchor, a reminder that we were in this together. Yet doubt crept in with every step. Was our trust misplaced? Had we left behind a tail, a guard or informant who might alert Derek at any moment? I could feel the internal conflict as waves of uncertainty crashed over me, but the resolve to reclaim our freedom pushed me forward. My mind oscillated between the adrenaline-fueled hope of liberation and the cold, stark fear of capture. Each heartbeat was a gamble, a precarious balance between danger and the promise of safety. Outside the compound, the world was a chaotic expanse of moonlit fields and whispering trees. The open air, though liberating, also exposed us to new threats. We moved quickly along a narrow dirt road, our senses alert to every rustle and snap of twigs underfoot. The night seemed to both aid and conspire against us. A beautiful, treacherous landscape that held the possibility of escape, as well as the risk of pursuit. The internal struggle was constant. My thoughts churned with vivid images of our past, confinement and the promise of freedom that lay just beyond our reach. I could almost feel the pull of home, a place of warmth and safety, and yet, the bitter taste of recent betrayals reminded me that this journey was far from over. Every inch of progress was hard-won, a battle between our collective will and the oppressive forces we fought against. In the midst of our tense escape, moments of camaraderie provided brief respite. A shared glance, a whispered joke about the absurdity of our situation, or even the silent comfort of knowing we were not alone. Each small moment of connection reinforced our collective resolve. Lewis, with his quiet determination, became a symbol of hope. His presence was a reminder that even those who had suffered under Derek's rule could rise and fight for a better future. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with peril, but every step we took filled me with an unyielding desire to break the chains of oppression. As the compound receded into the distance, swallowed by the darkness of the surrounding wilderness, I felt a spark of hope ignite within me. We were free, at least for now, and that freedom was a promise that we would continue to fight, to trust our instincts, and to never let fear define our destiny. Our journey was far from over, but in that pivotal moment, as we pressed onward under the cloak of night, the treacherous path to freedom was illuminated by our shared courage. Every whispered plan, every careful step, was a defiant act against the tyranny that had once held us captive. And as we moved further away from Derek's compound, I couldn't help but feel that we were forging not just an escape, but a new beginning, a future defined by trust, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of our pack. Hurt and healing. The unwelcome return to the past. We arrived at my mother's house under a sky the color of lead, a fitting backdrop for the storm of emotions that churned within me. The journey had been long and perilous, our escape marked by both triumph and lingering dread. Yet nothing could have prepared me for the moment I stepped through the familiar creaking doorway, only to be confronted by the ghosts of a past I had long tried to forget. The house stood there as if frozen in time, a relic of memories both bitter and tender. Its weathered facade, once a symbol of a home I might have cherished, now evoked a haunting sense of abandonment and regret. As I entered, the silence was palpable. The warm, comforting laughter and lively chatter that once filled these rooms had been replaced by a cold emptiness, echoing with unspoken words and broken promises. In the living room, I found Karen, my mother, a woman whose once familiar features now carried the hard lines of indifference and self-interest. Her eyes, which should have held the warmth of maternal love, were distant and unyielding. For a moment, the years of separation and neglect converged into a single, painful revelation. I had returned to the place where I was once left to fend. For myself, abandoned in the depths of the woods, a child cast aside as if I were nothing more than a burden. Leia, Karen's voice was laced with shock and something colder, a mixture of disbelief and reproach. The sound of her name, uttered in that flat tone, cut through the heavy silence like a shard of broken glass. I stood there, my heart pounding, every step forward a reminder of the wound that had never truly healed. I had hoped for some measure of recognition, some sign that the daughter she had once forsaken might have found a place in her heart. Instead, I was met with a look of disdain, as if my very existence were an error too painful to correct. The painful revelations began to unravel in the space of a few agonizing minutes. Karen's shock soon gave way to a calculated cruelty as she recounted in clipped, matter-of-fact tones the reasons behind her long-ago decision. With a coldness that sent shivers down my spine, she admitted that I had been left in the woods because I was a reminder of everything she wished she could forget, a symbol of a past marked by chaos and disruption. The words stung, each one a dagger twisting into the deep recesses of my soul. There was no remorse in her voice, no trace of maternal sorrow, only a detached certainty that my abandonment had been for the best, that my suffering was a necessary sacrifice for her own path to normalcy. Despite the searing pain of her revelations, I stood resolute. I had grown from the child she had cast aside into a woman forged by fire and the relentless bonds of my pack. My resilience was now a quiet, unyielding force, a stark contrast to her callousness. I met her gaze with a calm determination that belied the turmoil within. "I survived," I said softly, each word weighted with years of struggle and triumph. "I became stronger than the darkness you tried to leave behind." Karen's response was a mixture of disbelief and dismissal. "So, you think that makes it all okay?" She sneered, as if my survival were an affront to the life she had chosen. Her tone was venomous, and with every word, I felt the old wounds reopen, wounds that had been festering with the bitterness of neglect and abandonment. The living room, with its faded decor and stale memories, became a battleground for the clashing forces of my painful past and my hard-won present. Around us, the air was thick with tension. The rest of the pack, who had accompanied me on this reluctant journey, exchanged uneasy glances, their silent support a testament to the fact that I was not alone in my suffering. Their presence bolstered me, reinforcing the idea that while Karen's rejection was a wound that might never fully heal, it did not define me. I was more than the sum of her cruelty. I was a warrior, a survivor, and a leader. As the confrontation continued, the conversation turned bitterly personal. Karen's words, sharp and unforgiving, attempted to break my spirit, to remind me of the loss she had deemed necessary. Yet, each attempt only fueled the fire within me. I spoke of my journey, of the trials I had endured, and of the pack that had become my true family, one that had embraced me when she had not. My voice, though soft, carried a fierce conviction, a declaration that the love and loyalty I had found with my pack were far more valuable than the hollow promises of a mother who had never truly cared. In that fraught moment, the contrast between the violent world outside and the emotional sanctuary I had built within myself became painfully clear. While the external threats continued to loom, here in this house of fractured memories, I was forced to confront an even deeper betrayal, the betrayal of maternal love. Yet, even as the pain of abandonment threatened to overwhelm me, I clung to the strength that had been nurtured by the bonds of my true family. The encounter with Karen ended not with resolution, but with an uneasy truce, a silent understanding that some wounds might never heal. As I walked away from that painful reunion, the weight of the past was still heavy on my shoulders. Yet, it was also a catalyst for healing, a reminder that every scar, every memory of neglect, was a testament to the journey I had undertaken and the strength I had garnered along the way. The return to my mother's house was an unwelcome plunge into the past, a moment that forced me to confront the darkest parts of my history. And though the pain of her rejection was a wound that would linger, it also served as a stepping stone on the path to reclaiming my identity. I was no longer defined by the cruelty of those who had forsaken me. Instead, I was the daughter of a resilient pack, a survivor ready to forge a future where hurt could eventually give way to healing, and where the bonds of true family would shine brighter than the shadows of abandonment. Rising from the ashes, mending hearts, and preparing for war. In the immediate aftermath of our harrowing escape, the Alpha House became a place of both solace and simmering tension. The rescue had been bittersweet, a vivid reminder of the darkness we had just narrowly escaped, yet also a testament to our resilience and the unyielding bonds that tied us together. As we gathered in the familiar living room, the atmosphere was filled with soft murmurs of relief, interspersed with quiet sobs and determined glances exchanged among friends and family. The night after our escape was spent in a state of reflective quiet, the heavy burden of recent events mingling with the warmth of shared care. Jason and Alice moved like gentle sentinels through the house, tending to our wounds and offering comforting words that soothed both physical pain and emotional scars. In one corner, I found myself embraced by Ian, his steady presence a reminder that, despite the chaos, our love remained a constant beacon of strength. His tender whispers of reassurance and promises to stand by me infused me with hope, even as the memories of our recent ordeal echoed in the recesses of my mind. Around us, the pack members gathered in small clusters, sharing quiet conversations about the rescue and the sacrifices each had made to secure our freedom. There was a raw, unfiltered honesty in these interactions, an acknowledgement of the pain, the loss, and the immense cost of our struggle. Yet, amidst the heaviness, there were also sparks of laughter and gentle teasing, reminders that even in our darkest moments, the light of unity could not be completely extinguished. A brief smile here, a playful nudge there, these small gestures served as the fragile threads that began to mend our collective spirit. As we cleaned our wounds and patched each other up, the reality of what we had endured became clear. Derek's threat still loomed like a dark cloud over our future, and the Lupine necklace, a symbol of immense power and peril, remained at the heart of our conflict. But rather than succumbing to despair, the pack channeled its energy into preparation. We gathered in the main hall, where the soft glow of lamplight and the murmuring of determined voices created an atmosphere both intimate and charged with purpose. "Tonight," Jason declared, his voice firm and resolute, "we honor those who have sacrificed for our freedom. We must not only heal, but also prepare ourselves for what comes next." His words, delivered with both gravity and a spark of defiance, struck a chord within each of us. In that moment, the Alpha House was transformed from a mere sanctuary into a war room, a place where our shared pain became the fuel for our collective resolve. I listened intently as each leader spoke of strategy and unity. Jeremy's tone, though tempered by recent loss, was filled with a quiet determination. "We have been battered, but we are not broken," he said, his gaze sweeping across the gathered faces. "Every scar, every tear, is a reminder of our strength. It is up to us, as one pack, to forge a future where Derek's tyranny is nothing more than a memory." His words resonated deeply, stirring within me a renewed sense of purpose and a determination to lead by example. In the midst of these discussions, I found myself reflecting on the nature of leadership. I thought of the sacrifices that had been made, friends who had risked everything, moments when our unity had been the only shield against the encroaching darkness. It was in these reflections that I realized the true meaning of strength. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to face it head-on and to transform pain into purpose. The battle against Derek was not just a physical confrontation. It was a test of our collective spirit, a trial by fire that would either break us or bind us together even more tightly. The mood in the room shifted from somber introspection to a vibrant, if cautious, optimism. As we planned our next moves, there was an unspoken promise that we would not be defined by our wounds. Instead, we would rise from the ashes of our past failures, mending our hearts with the very fire that had once threatened to consume us. The sense of unity was palpable, each member, from the youngest to the most battle-hardened, contributing ideas and insights, their voices merging into a single, determined chorus. In that pivotal moment, the Alpha House pulsed with hope and suspense. Every plan, every strategy discussed, was laced with the promise of liberation and the unwavering belief that together we could overcome even the most insidious threats. I felt the weight of leadership settle upon my shoulders, a mantle that was both heavy and immensely empowering. I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, that Derek's forces would not relent without a fierce fight. But in that unity, there was also the spark of victory. As the meeting drew to a close, the room remained abuzz with the energy of plans set in motion. I looked around at the faces of my pack, each one a testament to the resilience and unbreakable spirit that defined us. There was pain in our eyes, yes, but also a glimmer of something brighter, a collective resolve to reclaim our future, to transform our suffering into a shield against the darkness. Walking out of that war room, I felt a renewed determination course through me. The sacrifices we had made, the hurt we had endured, were not marks of defeat, but symbols of our unwavering commitment to fight for a better tomorrow. With each step, I carried the hope of my pack, the promise of unity, and the deep-seated belief that from our brokenness, we would build something strong, something enduring. We were rising from the ashes, mending our hearts, and preparing for the war ahead. And in that preparation, I knew that every challenge we faced would only serve to make us stronger, our bonds deeper, and our future, no matter how uncertain, brighter than the darkness that had once threatened to engulf us. The ultimate stand, confronting Derek and seizing destiny. The night of reckoning arrived under a storm-racked sky, the dark clouds swirling overhead as if mirroring the chaos about to unfold. Every member of our pack had steeled themselves for the final confrontation. The Lupine necklace, a symbol of our collective power and the catalyst for so much strife, had become the prize for which Derek's forces and our united resolve would clash. We gathered at the edge of Derek's territory, the air thick with anticipation and the charged scent of rain on dry earth. Ian's grip on my hand was firm and unwavering as we exchanged determined looks. The weight of our responsibilities pressed down on us, yet there was also an undeniable surge of hope, a promise that tonight we would reclaim our destiny, We advanced, our footsteps barely audible over the distant rumble of thunder. The enemy's presence grew palpable. Derek's compound emerged from the darkness like a fortress of malice, its high walls and watchful guards a stark reminder of the tyranny we were about to challenge. The plan we had so meticulously crafted now rested on the razor's edge of action. In a sudden, orchestrated surge, our group sprang into motion. I led the charge, adrenaline flooding my veins as we engaged Derek's minions in a ferocious skirmish. Every movement was precise, a blend of feral agility and hard-earned discipline. Fists flew and claws slashed as our attackers met our unyielding resolve head-on. The air was filled with the cacophony of snarls, grunts, and the clash of determination against brute force. Derek himself appeared amid the chaos, a dark silhouette against the flickering lights of fire and storm. His eyes burned with a merciless intensity as he strode toward me, the lupine necklace dangling ominously from his neck. In that instant, the stakes became painfully clear. This was not just a battle for an object, but for the very soul of our pack, the hope of our future, and the vindication of every sacrifice we had made. I could feel the shift in leadership with every step he took. His arrogant swagger, the sneer on his lips, and the confident, predatory glint in his eyes all screamed of a man who believed his power was absolute. Yet, in his presence, I found my own resolve crystallizing into something unstoppable. I recalled every painful loss, every sleepless night, and the deep scars of betrayal that had led us to this final stand. I was no longer the frightened girl left in the woods. I had become a warrior, a leader whose duty was to protect my pack. At all costs, our confrontation escalated into a battle of wills. Derek lunged at me with savage determination, and we clashed like titans amid the storm's fury. The fight was brutal. Every blow exchanged was a symphony of pain and defiance. I dodged his vicious strikes with a mixture of instinct and learned finesse, countering with powerful, decisive moves that resonated with the strength of our united pack. Each maneuver was a testament to our rigorous training and the unwavering bond between us. Around us, our allies fought with a fiery spirit. Ian's roars of defiance, Xena's nimble strikes, and the relentless courage of every member reminded me that we were fighting not merely for survival, but for a future free from Derek's oppressive shadow. The ground beneath us trembled with the intensity of the clash, a primal dance of light and darkness, where every moment could tip the scales of fate. As the battle raged, the emotional stakes intensified. I could feel the pain of loss and the hope for redemption converging in a single powerful moment. The very essence of our pack, our shared history of sacrifice, and the promise of a better tomorrow surged through me, fueling my determination. In the midst of chaos, I locked eyes with Derek, his expression a mixture of cruelty and disbelief, and in that gaze, I declared, without words, that his reign of terror was ending tonight. But, just as victory seemed within reach, the tide of battle shifted unexpectedly. A surge of Derek's reinforcements crashed into our flank, and the controlled chaos threatened to spiral into utter mayhem. The air was thick with tension as I fought to hold our line, every strike and counter a desperate bid to maintain our hard-won advantage. The sounds of battle, the clash of determination against overwhelming force, reverberated around us like a relentless drumbeat. In that moment of critical uncertainty, my resolve hardened into an unbreakable shield. I would not let Derek's treachery extinguish the hope that burned in our hearts. Every fiber of my being screamed for justice and freedom. With one final decisive move, a maneuver born from both instinct and meticulous strategy, I managed to break through the enemy's line, forcing Derek to stumble back. For a fleeting heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath as I faced him, the lupine necklace gleaming ominously in the dim light. Yet, the battle was far from over. As I steadied myself, the echo of distant thunder mingled with the cheers and cries of our pack. Derek's form receded into the chaos, leaving me standing on the precipice of victory and defeat. I knew that this confrontation was merely the beginning of a much larger war, a war that would test every ounce of our strength and unity. With my heart pounding like a war drum and the storm raging overhead, I raised my gaze to the tumultuous sky. In that charged moment, as lightning illuminated the battlefield and our fates hung precariously in the balance, I vowed that we would seize destiny, no matter the cost. The ultimate stand was upon us, and though the outcome remained shrouded in uncertainty, one thing was clear. Our fight was far from over. And so, as the echoes of our struggle reverberated through the night, I stepped forward into the fray, my resolve as unyielding as the tempest around us, ready to confront Derek, to reclaim our future, and to etch our legacy into the annals of destiny.